Last weekend, it was reported that a man fell to his death after he was accused by an online vigilante group of being a paedophile. The man had been arrested during a live video broadcast by the group and was later released on bail. The so-called paedophile hunters, who identified the man in the first place, have asked their followers to allow his family to grieve. Now, these videos can rack up a huge number of views online, but these groups say that they're helping society by revealing the identity of online predators. Now, police maintain that vigilantes often make their own investigations harder. So should the police be working more closely with these hunters? Denise, where do you sit on this?
OK, the sensible line and the correct line and the politically correct line is that, of course, people should not take the law into their own hands. And I know, Judy, you're going to talk, but you're going to talk about the amazing work that these poor police have to do when they're investigating the horror of paedophilia, which is rife. But unfortunately, the law is an ass in so many occasions. And so do I enjoy known paedophiles when there is absolutely 100% proof that these people were arranging to meet an 11-year-old girl? Do I like to see them shamed? Yes, I do.
So you see, I mean, what we do have to say, though, is there are so many... I mean, you talk about, in your opinion, the positives of them doing the work that they do, but we also have to look at the other side. They are not a part of the police process. They are not part of the legal process. And the reality is that on occasion, when it comes to the evidence that they claim to have gathered on an individual, sometimes that so-called evidence can impede a police investigation.
Possibly, but most paedophiles would get away with it.
No, but you sort of say... You say get away with it as though the police services up and down the country aren't already doing a lot of good work.
I'm sure they are, but there are so many paedophiles who are... And the thing is, the police, no matter what an amazing job the police do with paedophilia, it gets before a judge who gives a suspended sentence to people who have got 2,000 babies being raped and they walk free from court. So, you know, there has to be some other way. So I understand these vigilantes.
I just don't think you can say something like that.
But I did.
When there are situations where that does not happen, and in more situations...
What doesn't happen?
No, in more situations than not, then people who are found to be guilty are jailed for their crime. So in terms of giving
Are they, Charlene? Do we know that, though?
Well, yeah, so 403 people were prosecuted. The data that I've got is from 2018. Were prosecuted for attempting to meet a child after grooming them
403? 403. The 67 million people in this country.
No, so 252 of those involved evidence gathered by hunting groups.
The thing I would question is with that is the amount of cases that don't come forward. The amount of young people that don't go to the police because they feel like their case will be thrown out. So on percentage-wise of the ones that they have, maybe they're reaching a certain mark, but the ones that are not heard of. I think it's a very hard thing when you talk about being a vigilante in any aspect and the shame and name, especially if there's not direct evidence. I think the issue, what we should really...
I only mean when there's direct evidence.
I think the issue is what we should be thinking about is that we're actually talking about children being abused. I think no matter what, we should be coming together to find a way, because there is a lot of cases of children being sexually abused and it has gone to court and hasn't had enough evidence, or it has gone to court and it's been thrown out with, you know, a small suspended sentence.
And you said it's in middle-class homes as well.
And then there's a lot that has gone to court and they have gone through, but it's such a difficult thing. I think there is a lot... to be looked at regards to how we're not thinking about which children are at risk, whether that's children at home. We just have quite small-minded of what children are being affected by.
Let's look at this from the other point of view. So I've done reports in the news before where I've followed police stations, areas of police where they are looking into and have to view this content online in order to be able to get a prosecution. And what they have to view for hours and hours a day, there isn't a single person, I think, in the studio that would be able to emotionally or psychologically be able to deal with that. And I think that includes those who see themselves as paedophile hunters who do not have the kind of psychological support that is put on for police officers. And Nadia, you've met some of these hunters before.
I have, and like Denise, I totally understand where the compulsion comes from, because I think it can just be so overwhelming when we're hearing just stories one after another. I actually do worry about the hunters as well, Because, like you say, you know, being subjected to that kind of messaging, often they're messaging, aren't they, or the photos, or...
Are they survivors themselves?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know, but it's like whatever... Meeting people at night, it's very dangerous, I think, for all sides. But I get the frustration, and I think possibly many hunters have had some experience, or family members had some experience, and they just feel that the police... can't do it. Come on, we know that the police can't do enough.
They can't do enough.
We know that there's no room in the
jails.
Yeah.
And I also think, when are we going to start thinking of a different way to deal with paedophilia? Because my mother-in-law worked in a paedophile unit in prison. She was in the library. And before she went into that particular area, she was very much forward-thinking. You know, they go in for a couple of years, you know, then they have to be treated kind of... She said nothing changes in that time they're in there. Nothing. Nothing. And she said, you know, and then they're just right back out. And so I think it's really...
Can I just add to that? They're right back out into the community.
Yeah.
Your neighbours.
And so us out with the pitchforks and being angry, which we all understand because we can't think of anything worse. It's unthinkable what is done. What are we actually going to do to make a change? Because if we just keep putting people in prison... And Denise is right.
Would you say it's the system, but would you say it's the checks and balances that should be in place online in order to restrict how this happens? Do you think that would help?
Well, obviously, online is giving paedophiles massive access.
What's the treatment?
I think what's happening is they're not... I think the issue is as well... Sorry to cut you down.
Darling.
The issue is as well is that a lot of these are going to court and not actually getting they're not getting the justice.
As Denise says, you could have thousands of pictures of children and you might get...
And the thing is that they say, but the judge says, but he hasn't done anything. He has, because he's been looking at imagery that those children have been abused to make those images.
What I will say,
but
the issue that I have about facts and figures is that when we throw out things like, this person had this many images and there was only... Unless you can give me hard proof and actually quote me a case, I think it's a very dangerous thing to say on national TV without backing it up with the proof.
I don't think when the paedophile hunters are looking at that, the paedophile hunters are becoming an 11-year-old girl online. So they have absolute evidence that that man or woman was going to meet that child.
No, but in terms of the percentage of those people who are jailed for such crimes, I think it's important when we sit here that we don't quote things such as that without backing it up with percentages and figures and what have you. But in terms of those that are jailed and those that aren't, and I just think it's quite a dangerous situation which just feed into a lot of...
Do any of us believe that the sentence is long enough and a person comes out with a changed attitude? No. And we need to look at what we're doing in that time that we have
children. The priority is always to protect the children.
Yeah.